So I truly believe any agent can sell 50 homes a year if they know the right actions to take, the right steps each day to follow consistently. I took a look at the past 10 years and the way I've created my business plans, and I wanted to communicate that here today in its simplest forms so that whether you're a new agent, veteran agent, no matter where you are in the country, you can take these principles, apply them to your business, and help you reach that 50 deal a year mark. Now, to give a little background, my first year as a full-time agent, I sold 47 homes. So that year, I just fell short a little bit. The 9 years after, I sold more than 50 homes. My highest selling year, I had 108 sold and pending, 93 of those actually closed. So these are the same principles I've used over the past 10 years. It's worked every year except that first year, which was 47. Pretty close. That's what I'm sharing with you today. Now, I will say this. If you like this video, if it's helpful, please press subscribe. That is how I know if this information is actually helping people in the marketplace. If you have questions, don't hesitate. Call, text, email. I get calls all the time from people watching my videos who have questions. I'm always happy to help. So let's get into it. I wrote down a few principles here that I wanted to share with you that I use for my business plan. First and foremost, I don't want this to change who you are as an agent, who you are as a person. The goal is to add this, to organize, to provide some structure to what you're already doing well, to who you are, to your unique ability, so that you can then take your business to the next level. So I don't want you to become something you're not. That's the first thing. How can you apply this to what you do? I call this the perfect 50 deal a year business plan because it's its simplest form and it can really apply to everyone. So the first thing I wrote down is make your schedule. If you're just showing up to the office each day and waiting to see what happens, you're gonna get caught up in whatever reactive thing comes across your desk. And if you're a real estate agent who's doing any type of business, there are calls that are coming in, emails that are coming in all day to try to grab and steal your attention. If you don't have a schedule, if you don't know exactly what you're doing with each working hour, it is way too easy for you to drift and get caught up in whatever the storm is for that day. Okay? So you have to have your schedule. Now, what goes into your schedule? I'm going to touch each point, but before I do, my favorite thing about schedule is you can make it around your life. It could be 9 to 5. It could be 10 to 6. It could be 7 to 3. There's no rules. Pick 5 work days, give a good 40-hour work week, and try to make that your schedule. Okay? Fit it around your life so that you're excited about it. You're excited about keeping that schedule. For me, this is one of my favorite parts of the job. It's one of my main motivators, my driving forces, because I love that I get to schedule my own time. And I want to protect that. I don't want to lose it. So it's something that really motivates me. So the first thing I wrote down that should go into your schedule each day is practice. This should happen for 30 minutes a day. What is practice? Well, you need to know what to say. You need to review your scripts. You need to review your questions to ask. And you have to do that. I don't care how good you are 30 minutes a day. The greatest athletes and actors, professionals in history, they still practice every day. Kobe Bryant had multiple coaches. He would be waking up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, practicing the most fundamental skills of basketball. Right? Shooting, dribbling, fundamentals. He would do it every day. He didn't say, I already know how to do that. He made time to practice it. So refining your skills, and I can say this, as somebody that has had times where I practice, sometimes where I haven't practiced, I can say when I'm practicing, I am dialed in on my conversations and calls. When I'm not, I'm stuttering, I'm missing opportunities. It keeps our body in rhythm. Right? So what does practice look like? You can practice on video like this. You can practice your questions and your scripts on a video, and then you can review it so you can see and make adjustments. You can role play with other agents who have similar goals to yours. This is one of the best ways. Now be careful Because if you're role playing with an agent who does not have similar goals than you, it's very likely they're not going to challenge you, or they're going to say things that are not realistic because they don't know what buyers and sellers are saying in the marketplace. You want to make sure you're role playing with someone at an equal skill level or ideally higher. My favorite thing to do is find agents that are doing more than me, role play with them so I can learn. Right? So seek out those people. Seek out those people. So you have to have a half hour in your day for practice. Now, ideally, you want to do this before your prospecting time. So for me, I love to do my role plays, my practice at 7:30 to 8. And then at 8 o'clock, I'm ready to get right into my prospecting, which is the second piece to the perfect business plan. You must prospect for 3 hours a day, minimum, if you want to do 50 deals a year. Minimum. It's non-negotiable. Now, prospecting can mean a lot of different things. It can mean you're calling people in your neighborhood. It can mean you're door knocking people in your neighborhood. It can mean you're calling people in your database. It could mean you're having meetings with people in your database. It can mean you're calling expireds and FSBOs and absentee owners and all that good stuff, but you have to talk to someone. It could mean you're DMing people in your database on social media. Call is better. Call is always preferred, but social media will be a lower tier on that. If you're waiting, if you're posting a video and waiting, not like posting a video isn't bad. It's just don't expect to get the business from the video. That's not what the video is for. The video is to help you stay top of mind. So when you do reach out to your database with a call, they know that you're in the business and you're active. But just posting videos isn't going to bring you in business. That's not what it does. It's not the purpose. So don't be fooled by that. There's a lot of top agents out there, or even agents who aren't doing very much business, that are having a great profile on their social media. Makes it seem like they are. Don't be fooled. If you're spending all your time doing that, it's distracting you from those real conversations. The conversations are the separator. In today's day and age, with AI and automated everything, the best way to stand out against the competition is to have a real human conversation with your prospects. Very few agents are doing it. Everyone knows when they're being automated or sent mass text. Everyone knows when that's happening. So when you have the real conversation, you stand out. And because you've practiced your questions, you know what to say. There's 2 reasons people don't want to talk on the phone. One is they don't know what to say, so they lack the confidence, which is why we practice. And 2, they don't want to, there's a fear there. They don't want to get rejected. They don't want someone to say no. And I get that. In this business, we're told much more than we're told yes. Here's the good news. It gets a little easier the more you do it. Never goes away completely, so don't be fooled. It's something that's there. But when you work hard and you practice and you do this right, and you have these conversations every day, I promise you, you can't help but take a listing every week if that's your focus and you're making these calls 3 hours a day. I can tell you that first year I was full-time, I was not very good. But I did show up every day. And I did make my calls. I did do what I was supposed to do. I made those calls for 3 hours. And here's what happens. You start to get good when you do it every day. You start to know what to say. You start to get a little more confident. You start to learn about the market and what works and what doesn't. When you show up every day, you can't help but learn. So that's the piece I know a lot of people don't want to hear. A lot of you might shut off the video right here. But if you do that for 3 hours a day, you will get that 50 deal a year mark, and it will come a lot faster than you realize. And I can tell you this, whatever your average commission check is, do the math. Whatever your take home is after your splits with your team, your broker, etc. And then you multiply that times 50. To me, that's worth 3 hours of my time. And this is for a separate video. But there are so many synergies with that. We are doing so many good things for our clients when we're actually prospecting every day, and we're giving them an advantage against the rest of the marketplace. Again, that'll be a time for a different video, but there's value you're providing when you do that. It's not only the income. So do the math. If you like the number that's on the paper, if you've taken that average commission, you multiplied it by 50. If you like that number, keep watching, okay? So we've talked about prospecting. We've talked about practice. Next one is lead follow-up. So for me, again, 7:30 to 8, I would practice. 8 to 11, I'd be prospecting. 11 to 11:30, I'm doing lead follow-up. This is something that even great prospectors skip, and 70% of your business comes from lead follow-up. If you're just trying to get business from those first initial calls, you are leaving so much money on the table. And if you're just doing lead follow-up by feel here and there, your lack of consistency is missing opportunities, guaranteed. When you have a time scheduled, now you go to your old leads. Listen, you don't need fancy CRMs. You don't need any fancy software. I use note cards. Note cards is where I write my leads and my notes. And then every day on lead follow-up time, I'm just sifting through who do I need to call today. Make my lead follow-up calls, and then I'm on to the next activity. Now, something very important. When you're practicing, when you're prospecting, when you're lead follow-up, participating in lead follow-up, you should have a singular focus here. It is not buyer prospecting. We're not looking for buyer clients. If buyers come to us and they meet our criteria and they have strong motivation, we'll get to that a little later. Yes, I'm not saying don't work with them. But when we're putting energy to find business, we have to have a singular focus to find listings. It's a critical part of the business plan. Now, why is that? With listings, we can control our time, we can control our income, and we can control our systems. We set up the showing systems in the marketplace and how agents have to follow those rules that meet our business and schedule. We predict our income. We agree on that before we even get to work. So if the seller doesn't agree on whatever we believe our service is worth, we don't spend additional time on that, right? You can scale your business and add transactions when you control your schedule and time. Listings allow you to do all three of these things. So if we put all of our time searching for listings, a good portion of our time is going to bring back a good portion of our business is going to be listings, which is going to allow us to keep going, right? If more than 50% of your business is coming from buyers, you can't scale. You can't keep going. It's too time consuming. There's too many things out of your control that can go wrong. There's too many things that could take you off your schedule. So one of the keys to this business plan is it has to be listing focus. Your intention has to be on listings when you're prospecting lead follow-up. If something falls in your lap on the buyer side, that is okay. Obviously, you're not going to turn it down. You want to provide great service to buyers in your database if they're motivated and strong. There's other options for that as you scale your business. But for the purposes of this video, you have to be over 50%. Ideally, the sweet spot is 65-70% listings, 30-35% buyers, if you want to consistently get that 50 deal a year mark. And the higher you go up after 50, honestly, you have to be narrower. You have to go up to 80-90% listings as you go higher in transaction goals. All right, so that's lead follow-up. Number 5, another critical piece to the business plan. You must pre-qual every appointment with 100% of the questions on your pre-qual script. Now, I don't care whose script you use, really. I don't care if you make your own script, but there are a few questions that absolutely have to be in a pre-qualification script, right? We need to know the buyer's or seller's motivation, right? When do you plan on moving, right? How would you rate your motivation to sell on a scale of 1 to 10 is a great question. Right, especially if it's a FSBO or somebody that you think's maybe not being upfront with you. That question can really gauge. All right. How soon do you have to be there? Are you interviewing any other agents for the job? When I see you, how much do you want to list your home for? How much do you owe on the property? As a professional, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you want to list with me at a price that'll cause it to sell, correct? So what price won't you go below? Right? Could you describe your home for me? You really want to dig in with these questions. Have you updated your kitchen and baths in the past 3 to 5 years? Be specific here. I used to say, have you updated, or are your kitchen and baths new? Have you done any updating? And they go, oh, we totally remodeled it. It's beautiful. Okay, how long ago? 22 years. It's not new anymore, okay? So be specific with these questions. Get all the information you can before you do that in-person meeting or showing, right? If when I meet with you, if what I say makes sense, and you're comfortable and confident I can sell your home, are you planning to list with me when I come out on Tuesday? If they say no, what are we even doing? Right? If what I say doesn't make sense, okay, but if you're not ready to list, get back on the phone and try to find someone that is. If when we see the property, if you love it, are you and your family ready to make an offer on the property? If the answer is no, what are we doing? Right? There's plenty of tools to view properties online for people that are not serious. Right? Spend all your time looking for motivation. Help the people that really need to be helped, because there's way too many people in this business who are just looking for opinions and considering and not really ready. We tend to feel like we have to do those things when we don't have any business. But when we have business, we're able to say, you know what? It sounds like this is a little early for you. I want to give you an accurate market evaluation. I don't want to confuse you with numbers that are going on right now. I want to give you real numbers when you're ready. Would it be okay if I gave you a call back in a month to see where you're at, or wherever, based on, wherever they're at based on your conversation, a week or 2 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is, right? So pre-qualification has to be done to stay on schedule. If you don't have any standards, you're just going on any appointment you can, you're gonna waste a lot of time. It's gonna be very hard to stay on schedule. Okay. Next, you need time in your schedule for admin work. You need time in your schedule to return calls, to negotiate, etc. We call this admin work. Work on contracts, work on addendums, return your calls, negotiate offers, right? So for me, from 11:30 to 12, this is when I would do my admin work, do my CMAs, return my client calls, whoever called me during the day, or agents that I need to get back to, right? A half hour strategically placed a few different spots in the day, 2 or 3 spots in the day, gives you plenty of time to do your admin work if you've got good systems and you're efficient. Even without an assistant, my first year I did not have an assistant. This is how I did it. Now, if you're doing 50 deals a year, you're going to want to add an assistant very quickly. It's going to make your life a lot easier, improve your customer service. But you don't need it. It can be done without it with the right systems. If you don't have an assistant, I would recommend admin time in the morning before you start. So I would do that early first thing before my role playing. Even I would do admin 11:30 to 12, and then I would do admin at the end of the day when I didn't have an assistant. When you have an assistant 2 times a day, after your morning prospecting and at the end of the day, is plenty if you have good systems in place. The best thing about this, if you're doing your prospecting and an emergency call comes in, you don't have to pick it up, because you know you're going to get back to whoever that is at 11:30 when you're done prospecting. I promise you there are no emergencies in real estate that can't wait till 11:30 or 12. The morning is for generating business. Right? We are not the fire department. We are not the police. Waiting a few hours to get back to someone is certainly not the end of the world. And a lot of times, people with these so-called emergencies, they can actually figure the problem out themselves in that time it took for you to get back to them. Okay? This keeps you focused, intentional, and present on what you're doing when you know you have a spot in your schedule for each task. This is the purpose of the business plan. It takes out the stress and the worry because you know you have time for everything. Next are your appointments. Obviously, you want to go to lunch. I would do lunch 12 to 12:30. Next are your appointments. Okay, if you're going to work with buyers, if you're around that 50% mark, you need at least 3 appointment time slots a day for either listings or buyers. If you're going to be 90% plus on listings, you can get away with 2. I'm usually between 80 and 90% listings buyers, so I've always done 2 listing appointment slots at 1 and 2:30. So I eat my lunch, and then I travel to my listing appointment at 1. From 1 to 2, I do the listing appointment. Then I travel to the next listing appointment. So 2:30 to 3:30 is my next listing appointment. I get out of the listing appointment at 3:30. Then I'm doing my admin again at the end of the day to wrap up whatever I need to, and I'm done by 4. Go home, gym, family time, etc. Okay, so let's stay on those appointment times. Now, this is not something, I didn't believe this was possible. I was at a conference, there was a veteran agent on stage, and she was done every day at 3 o'clock. And she did her appointment times at 11 and 1. And this blew my mind, Monday through Friday. This blew my mind. So I talked to the agent, went up to her, I asked questions. She said, the reason most agents don't do this is because they don't ask. Most agents, when we have a prospect, we're so happy someone's interested, we say, when do you want to meet? When can I come over? You can't run a business this way. You're completely at the mercy of the prospect. If they say 7 o'clock on a Friday night, you got to say, okay, I'll see you then, right? And now your personal time's ruined. If they say 9 a.m. on Wednesday, now your prospecting time's ruined, and you're not growing your business, right? When you ask, when you say, let me look at my schedule here. I have a 12:30 on Tuesday or a 2 o'clock on Thursday. What would work better for you? 80% of the time, they will pick a time. Now, the other 20%, you got to determine their motivation. If you have a super motivated prospect that you believe is going to buy or list, and it takes you off your schedule 20% of the time, that's a business decision. I would tell you to go take that appointment. But you would be surprised how many times people will work with your schedule. And guess what? These are the people you want to work with. These are respectful people who value your time and value what you do. It's not the people that don't. We're not trying to, listen, if someone doesn't value what we do, it's talking them into working with us never ends well. Never ends well. So we want to make sure we're providing the times. When you do that, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. Now, here's the cool thing. When you're working with a buyer, the appointment doesn't take an hour, right? So if I give myself an hour for a listing appointment, between 1 and 2, that's really 2 buyer appointments, maybe even 3, depending on how I schedule my time. So if I have a buyer looking in the same town, I could easily get 2 showings during that same appointment slot. That's why I say if you're working with buyers, you need to add 3 appointment slots, because you got to give yourself a little more flexibility. But if you're just working listings, you can be very efficient with two listing spots and protect your schedule. If someone's not motivated, you do not put them in an appointment slot. If they are, you lock them in and you go. Now, 2 appointment slots a day is 10 a week. There's 4 weeks in a month. You could essentially take 40 listings with 2, and no one, we're not at that level. I'm not at that level yet. When I am, I'll have to create a new schedule or a new system. If you're trying to list 50 homes a year, which is the magic number here, if we list 50 homes a year, one little less than one a week, we're going to sell 50 houses. We're either going to sell that listing, or we're not going to sell the listing, but we're going to pick up a buyer lead off the listing who called about it, who we're going to help buy a house. That math has worked every year I've been a real estate agent. And I've also masterminded, role-played with other great agents from across the country. That ratio is how agents predict and create their business plan. Top agents across the country. That same rate, every listing is a sale. That's how you can predict, make your business duplicatable. That's what makes this business plan So powerful. Okay. Now, what happens if you don't have appointments? Our only job is to find appointments and sign listing agreements or write buyer contracts, right? If we're not doing one of those things, we got to be back on the phone searching for that business. Or maybe I should say prospecting, right? So you're going to, however your plan is to prospect, that's more time to do it. Maybe it's some face-to-face meetings in the afternoon, so you make it a little different. I would love to do my phone prospecting in the morning. If I don't have appointments in the afternoon, I like to meet a client face-to-face, or I want to door knock. I want to do something different. So I'm still in growth mode, but it breaks up the day and it makes it fun. I'm not just doing the same thing for 8 hours. Right? Now, some of you might want to do the same thing. Some of the top agents in the country, they'll be on for 8 hours, or 6 hours, I should say, when they don't have appointments. So it's, again, this is what I'm saying. Be you. What do you do well? Like, what makes you great and unique? And apply it. But it's got to be a form of prospecting. And you got to have 3 hours in the morning. If there's no appointments, you got to get back in the afternoon. Now, here's a good thing. Like, I was a teacher before this. Like, I had to go to work from 8 to 3. But then I got to go home and do what I wanted to do with my life, have my own hobbies, family, friends, etc. If you treat real estate the same way, if you just give yourself that 8 hours a day and you're super intentional and scheduled with it, when you're done, you can go enjoy hobbies and friends and family, and you don't have to feel a pull, because you know tomorrow you have all the time to do the catch up, the activities, the growth, everything is going to be taken care of. We don't need to react to a phone call. When you're generating business and working a plan, you don't need to react to everybody that says, hey, I want to see this property. Right? That's the beautiful thing about this. The next piece to the business plan, it's one of the last pieces, we're winding down here. You have to have systems for showing property, client updates, and agent communication. You have to have systems for this. If you're the person that's scheduling all your showings, that's going to take you off schedule quick. Right? If every time your phone rings, you're answering that agent call with questions about the property, you're going to get off your schedule quick. Okay, so you have to have the system. For me, any big team or brokerage is going to have a showing desk, showing time, and someone that mans those phones and helps, that you can leverage and put it on the MLS that if they want to show the property, they have to call the office or use showing time, etc. If they have questions, they can email. Email's best for questions. I know everybody wants to talk. I'm not saying don't talk. Talking is important on the phone with other agents when you're negotiating, getting people interested in the property. But when it's generic questions or showing things, the email's better. It documents the questions and what was said. And I know, listen, we aren't intentional, but agents are busy. They're doing a million things at once. Sometimes they forget what they said. The email documents it. And B, when you catch up on your admin time, you can go through those email questions, get everybody their answers and best service, in a way that fits your schedule. Okay, and then the showing desk can help people get in there when they need to and answer their questions about showing times, restrictions, etc. Right. So if you have a good system for that, it shouldn't take you off schedule. Now, client communication. This is huge. One of the biggest complaints about real estate agents is they list our house and we never hear from them. So you have to have a client communication system. You have to have a time in your schedule where you're checking in with your listings weekly, your pendings and your listings, to give them an update on where they are in the process, in the transaction, or what type of activity they're getting on the listing. Okay, so put a time in your schedule. It could be once a week. This really depends on how much inventory you have. If you have less than 10 listings, once a week, give yourself a little half hour to an hour time block in one of your listing appointment times, where you're just checking in with the sellers, letting them know how many homes sold in town, what you've done for marketing, the feedback, right? Be proactive. Don't let them call you because they haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. You call them. That's going to get you referrals down the road, and it's going to keep them happy now and give them great service. There's a lot of synergies to that. Okay. Now, if you have more than 10 listings, there was a time, pre-COVID where, Connecticut was a very slow market. We had a slow absorption rate. There was a time I had 44 listings. Calling 44 listings and updating them in one day would be exhausting, right? So what I did, I would separate it into the days of the week. I would do 9 a day, right? So every weekday I would have a half hour built in to my schedule, one of the appointment times, listing appointment times. I would break off a little chunk of it where I would call my sellers and update them on the market, right? So it wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't too much in one day. And by the way, I do know agents that would just block off a whole afternoon and they would call all of them, right? I know agents that carried 70, 80 listings at a time during that pre-COVID and when markets were slower. And they would make a day out of it, afternoon out of it, etc. Whatever it is, that piece can't be skipped. There's no way you can list that many properties if your customer service, your communication isn't good. So make sure you have showing systems, make sure you have client communication systems. Okay, then the last two pieces of this 50 deal a year business plan, rest, recover, re-energize. When you're home, when you're not working, listen, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I have the 80% rule is what we call it. If you can stick to the schedule, the plan, 80% of the time, you're going to crush your goals, right? No one's perfect. No one's 100%. So don't worry about that. But if you can stick to it 80% of the time, you're going to have a big year. So when you're at home, give yourself some grace. Don't be reactive. If it's a situation based on motivation, someone you've pre-qualified, you've been working on a while, you have an opportunity, go take it, right? But don't let it consume you. Don't be reactive to every little thing. When you're at home, rest, recharge, refocus, spend time with, your loved ones, your friends, other types of relationships, hobbies, things you want to do outside of business. Because too many people burn out when you're going 16-hour days, right? The beautiful thing about this business plan is if you're intentional with it, it frees up other areas of your life. So, listen, I tried to break this down in its simplest form. I tried to use examples from not only my own business, but from other agents I've interviewed. You'll see it on the channel. Other agents I've interviewed from across the country, top agents who have been doing this a long time. A lot of them a lot longer than me. Because I don't want it to be just that I'm saying it. I want to show you that the information we're providing here has been proven time and time again for agents for years. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate. I'm here. Call, text, email. I'm always happy to help. I hope this business plan is helpful to you. I hope it resonates with you, and I hope you have a great year.